guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along in our channel and our journey here for season 2, you are well aware that we encountered some brake issues going back all the way to the, I want to say to the Mancos, Colorado area. I think that's where we first experienced the issues and experienced the problems with the brakes. And then I did a little bit of investigation when we got to South Fork, Colorado, and this is just to bring you guys up to speed. And when we got to South Fork, Colorado, I discovered that one of the calipers was busted or leaking. I didn't have time to correct it at the time, so basically I just sealed it off. If you go back to that video, the Mancos, Colorado video, it'll show you what I did. Whatever, to speed up the process, I'll let you guys know what's going on. We went through a lot of mountains and stuff like that, and somewhere along the line, and I'm not really sure the cause of it. I can't tell you that it was inferior products utilized or maybe the mountains. I do know that there are some issues concerning the heating of the brakes. Well, whatever happened pretty severe. So 2 out of the 4 calipers in the back of the rig, well, one of them is totally destroyed. One of them, the cylinder came out totally, and basically from the heat welded to the actual brake pad. So just to avoid the issues, which mind you was a little bit concerning to me, because we only had at the time like maybe 12,000 miles on the unit. I didn't realize that the brakes wear out that quick, or maybe it was the mountains, like I told you. Nonetheless, I went ahead and ordered 4 brand new calipers from E-Trailer. They arrived here in Valley View RV Park, which we are in just outside Yellowstone. So in a place called Island Park, Idaho. I went ahead and got them, and today I'm going to go ahead and basically switch them all out. I'm going to change them all out, and I'm going to share that footage with you guys. So if you're into this kind of stuff, follow along. If not, you might want to just click out for this video, because basically it's brake changing, caliper changing, and an RV. That's all I got for you guys today. But if you decide to stay, I welcome you. Let's get to it. Okay, if you guys will notice, this rear tire is the one that I initially had problems with. I took the caliper off. We've been riding without the caliper. It's busted. It's no good. And I sealed it off, and I'll show you that in a minute. That's the one that I crimped off. So I'm going to work on this one first. Always remember to put your upper bolt in first, because if you don't, the leaf spring won't allow you to put it in. There's not enough room. All I did was the fitting for the fluid, the brake fluid, I just loosened it, put it straight up, perpendicular or straight up, so that when the tire flexes and the leaf spring flexes, that it has room to move. You don't want this to be super taut, because it won't have any give. So put your caliper on loosely, do that, then tighten up your caliper. So what's up, guys? We are going to break off from the regularly scheduled program, and we're just gonna cut right into this video here for a second, because I realized something that I hate when I see in other videos, and I need to fix it. I need to correct it. So first and foremost, let me say the disclaimer I always give. This is not a how-to video. This is not a how-to channel. This is just me sharing my experiences with you guys. I like to do a lot of things myself. I'm pretty knowledgeable in just about everything, and then those things that I have doubts about. I mean, I got friends, like I've mentioned before, my buddy back home, Vic, who's very good at mechanical stuff, so I can always pick up the phone and call him. And then there's always YouTube. YouTube usually has a lot of information out there, a lot of good videos to help people that are willing to dive into projects such as this, okay? However, I am guilty during this video of committing the same mistake that I so much dislike when I watch YouTube videos. Oftentimes people talk a lot. They say, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it, but they never really show you. And during the editing of this very video, which I filmed 2 days ago, obviously some of you guys that are detectives out there have realized I'm wearing a different shirt. It's obviously a different day. So during the editing of the video, I realized that I was guilty of doing exactly what other YouTubers do, or people that put videos on YouTube, and they talk about what they're doing, but they really don't show it. I don't want to be that guy, so I figured I'm going to cut the video and I'm going to interject this piece in here to show you guys what I got going on. I mean, in the video it shows me underneath, but it's from far away and you really can't see what I'm doing. And it's for a couple reasons. I'm not making excuses, but it's for a couple reasons. Number one, my hands were greasy, so it's not really a good time to be touching my phone and turning on and off the camera. So I'll do it in two pieces. I'll interject right here, and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about in the video, what I'm doing down underneath the car. I'll show you with this caliper that I happen to have right here, which is funny. This caliper that you're looking at right here is brand new. So when I first experienced the problems with the brakes, I contacted Dexter Axles. Let me tell you right now, there's no sponsor money or anything like that, but what a great company to work with. Their customer service is second to none. They are awesome. Dexter Axle happens to be the mother company of Kodiak brakes, Kodiak calipers. So when I called them, they immediately transferred me over. I had originally just found one problem. I didn't realize that the rest of them were bad. They didn't hesitate. They went ahead and sent me a new caliper. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're responsible for all of them, so that's why I went ahead and bought mine. So I'll just keep this one that they generously gave me, and I'll keep it as a spare. But, so this is what I am installing, and you see me on the video installing underneath on every 4 tires. This is a regular one, which is black. The one that I installed, I think the proper name is Dacromet. The finish is a little different. It almost looks like stainless steel, but it's a little different. So that's the one I'm installing down there. So when I refer to the actual caliper, it's this one with a different finish. Now, this one is actually loaded. It comes with the pads. Pads are super easy to install. This is the inner pad. Okay, it just comes off and it snaps on. Those 2 little ears, which is what gave away that I was having problems with the original brakes, because those ears had bent out. Okay, so this slides in this hole right here. The two little ears go in this area, and the pad slides right in. The outside pad has these little clips. With a screwdriver, you just lift them and it comes right out. So it's not rocket science, okay? If you just have a little bit of knowledge and know your way around tools, and you're willing to dive into something like this, you can do it. You can do it. It's fairly simple. I'll get into it, and you make the determination. Now, if you look at the caliper from the top, you have these little areas right here. Those are called I don't know what they're called. I don't know the actual industry name for it. But if you look at your caliper and you climb underneath it, you could see in through here, and that little notch right here on the brake pad will tell you if it's time to change your brake pads or not. Ask me how I know. Well, that was explained to me again by my buddy Vic, and now I know to keep an eye on my new brake pads, because I didn't know that before. So live and learn. It was a fairly costly mistake. By the way, for those of you wondering, the calipers, I picked them up for $143 each on eTrailer, another great company to work with, and they delivered them here to the campground. They came loaded again, which means the pads are installed. So when you really look at it, it's not that expensive. The pads alone cost like 40-something bucks. But nonetheless, I had an issue with them. They were busted. They were junk. Now I got new ones. Now I know what to look for. And if you're watching this video and you're an RVer, word to the wise, keep an eye on those little wear notches right there. It'll tell you when it's time to change your pads. And as long as you don't ruin the caliper, like I did, changing the pads is a snap. You're talking about a 1-hour job. I mean, I just changed you're seeing this video later. I changed 4 calipers in less than, I don't know, maybe an hour, whatever, 2 hours. But it's fairly easy. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. I gave you a little bit of information. Now, these things, to take them on and off, 2 bolts. That's all they have. 2 bolts that come with this thread. I don't know what they call it, like Loctite from the factory. Highly recommend that you buy yourself a little bottle of Loctite in case you have to put these on and take these on. Every time you put these on, you should add Loctite on them. Here are the 2 bolts. They go just like this. You'll hear me in the video talk about it. Here are the 2 bolts that go in. Again, I mentioned in the video, highly recommend before you put it in, take the top bolt and put it in, because the leaf spring will not let you put it in once you have it on the rotor. So install the top one or set it into place, and then slide your caliper into the position that it's going. This little nipple you see right here, and I'm going to call it a nipple, I don't know what the industry name for it is. This is where the brake fluid line attaches. Now, that brake fluid line is a 3/8 wrench, okay? I mentioned in the video, just place it on there loosely, okay? You don't want it so loose that it'll leak, and you don't want it in there so tight that you'll ruin the thread. But just put it in there loosely until you've set your caliper in place. Then you want to loosen it and place it up and down vertical, so that when the leaf springs flex, it has some motion. If it's facing down, you're going to stretch. You're going to put some tension on the fluid, on the brake fluid line, and really you don't want that. So put it loosely. Once you've set your caliper, then put the brake line, put it up and down, tighten it in place. Do not tighten it too tight, okay, because you will ruin the thread. Again, that bolt that goes in here, and I'll show you a picture of what it looks like installed. That bolt that goes in here is a 3/8 inch wrench, okay? So that covers that, and I showed you the picture on that installed. Now, the 2 bolts, again, the top one you will put on in place before you put it on the rotor, because you won't be able to do it after. That is a 1/2 inch wrench, okay? You don't want to tighten the top one all the way and then the bottom one all the way. You want to do a little bit of the top, a little bit of the bottom, and so forth, so that it goes on straight. Tighten it. I contacted Kodiak. This is 45 pounds, okay, foot-pounds. So you need a torque wrench. When you're done installing these, you need a torque wrench, 45, okay? These are 45. Now, last but not least, which is what I'm going to do today, and I didn't think I was going to videotape it. I am going to videotape it. Here is the items that I need for to bleed the brakes. The final thing you need to do is you need to find one of these. Depending on whether you're on the left side of the coach or the right side of the coach, is going to determine which way this caliper goes. So in this particular case, I am going to mimic the placement of this caliper on the right side of the coach. So it goes basically like this. All right. These right here are bleed nipples. Okay. It has two. It has one here and then one at the end. You don't want to mess with the one in the back, which I believe is right in the middle. It's not 3/8. It's a I don't know what that is, but whatever. You want to touch with the very little end, okay, the little top nipple, which is 5/16. Takes a 5/16 wrench, okay. This is another thread again. You want to go, by the way, to the top nipple, not the bottom one. You want to bleed the air through the top. You press your hose up against the tip. It'll just sit there, okay, where you could still reach with the wrench. You're going to want to have somebody activate the brakes. Actually, this is a great opportunity to interject this part here. So how do these brakes work on this particular shirt? Now, mind you, you have this type, and then you actually have drum brakes also. These are disc, okay? When you connect or when you tether your truck to the RV through the 7-way pin, okay, it actually connects to, not the brakes directly, it connects to a box that goes in the front. I'll show you a picture here of where mine is located. It's located up by the batteries. It connects to a thing called an actuator. The actuator is the reservoir of the brake fluid, and that is what sends a signal to the brake pads or the calipers to basically squeeze and activate, okay? That actuator that sits up in the front is obviously electrically, it works electric because you're sending an electric signal to it through the 7-way pin, which then in turn it activates using brake fluid to the actual calipers. All right, so that actuator that sits up at the front, you got to make sure that it always has fluids, okay? So in order for that actuator to work, and in order for you to be able to bleed these brakes, it's definitely a two-man job, or in my case, a husband and wife job. So I will back my truck up and I will just connect the 7-way pin, and I will have Myrna activate the brakes, okay, manually. She can activate the brakes manually, and I'll show you a picture here of what I mean. First of all, set the gain on it using the plus or the minus. I usually, my brakes were running on 7. Now that I got new pads and new brake pads, when I move here in a few days, I'll recalibrate that. I'll recheck it and see if 7 gain is enough. But Myrna's going to have to activate that. Now, when that is activated, it sends a signal to the actuator. The actuator pumps brake fluid back here to the calipers, which in turn will, if I open this up, will shoot out air, okay, which is essence behind it, bleeding the brakes. It'll shoot out air until solid fluid comes out. When solid fluid comes out, just give it a boop, a half a turn, and you'll lock that nipple and you move on to the next tire. Now, is there a process on how to do that? There is. The actuator is in the front left of my coach, okay? So therefore, I'm going to start the bleeding of the brakes, and I'll get more into that in a minute. I'm going to start bleeding the brakes the far rear right tire, the farthest tire away from the actuator. So I'm going to do, I won't even talk about it later, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to tell you how. I'm going to do right rear of the trailer, left rear of the trailer, front right rear or front right tire of the trailer and left tire of the trailer in that order, starting with the furthest tire away, and I'm going to start bleeding it. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, this takes not even 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes. It's a very easy process. But that's what we're going to do. I hope you guys, whoops, drop the bolts. I hope you guys appreciate or have a little better understanding of what I'm doing. Like I said, this is a very easy job. If you're willing, if you're handy around tools and you're not scared to dive into this project, it's very simple. If you reach out to Dexter or Kodiak, and I'll put the number here in the screen for you, because if you own a trailer or a fifth wheel and you have disc brakes, you're gonna have Kodiak brakes. Okay, and I guarantee you, I don't know if you're gonna have Kodiak brakes, but you're definitely gonna have Dexter axles, because they basically have the market cornered on. They're very good company. So reach out to them if you're not sure what you're doing. They'll walk you through it. Super easy project. I had to put this in here. I hope I didn't get too winded, but I hope it helps somebody in the future if you're not scared to undergo this project. And now that I brought you this, I feel a little bit better, because the original video really didn't cover this. Now that I'm good with this, now let's go back to the project. That's one. Now we're going to remove this one and replace it. First, we're going to crimp the line so that the fluid doesn't leak. this one wasn't too bad, but look at this. I hadn't pulled this one out, but I went ahead and ordered it because when you look from the side, you can see that the ears bent, and you could see the cylinder. Actually, here you go. Here's a perfect example. There goes the whole cylinder right there. So this one was done. This one was not doing its job. So it is what it is. Let's replace it. It's snug. Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, this is a 3/8 crescent wrench, or a 3/8 wrench. That's the one that you need for both the. That's the one you need for the actual fluid nipple, and the bleeding nipple is a little bit smaller. But this is 3/8. This is the one you need. So now that I snugly put it in there, I'll release the crimp. Save this for the next time. Caliper is now, it's properly positioned. The bolts are threaded in a little bit, not too much. You don't want to over tighten this right now. Now it's time to adjust your fluid nipple. Make sure it's in the right direction, straight up and down, so it has room to move. Tighten it in place. Remember, careful not to over tighten it. The thread is very, very fine thread. You don't want to mess that up. I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. Not going to bore you guys with that. I'll get back with you guys when we do the bleeding and final thoughts. All right, so a quick update. I only showed you guys this side of the coach because I don't want to bore you with all the repetitive stuff. And I also didn't want to bore you with putting the tires back. You saw me take them off, same process, putting them back. So this job is fairly easy. All I gotta do is disconnect, like I mentioned in the video, disconnect the fluid hose, make sure that it doesn't leak, because you don't want to leave a mess here at a campground. Undo the 2 bolts that hold the caliper, slide it off, and put it in the new one. In my particular case, sliding off wasn't that easy. I had to hammer it off. I had to persuade it off, because since the brake pads kind of melted onto the caliper and formed it, took the form or the shape around the rotor, I had to bang it out. But job is done, with the exception of the bleeding of the brakes. And that's it. Once they're bled, they should be ready to go. Easy project. If you spend more than, let's say, 2 hours doing this, all 4 and the bleeding, you're doing something wrong. But I hope this helps somebody. And, if anybody got any comments or suggestions, or maybe I did something wrong, let me know. Let me know in the comments. All right, so Murphy's Law. I tried to do the bleeding of the brakes to show you guys, but I just didn't have enough hands. So I'll try and explain a little bit. The little hose contraption that I told you, I connect to this bleeder, okay? Then have Myrna press the brakes. The air comes out, then I tighten it up. However, on this particular caliper, it didn't happen on any of the other ones over here. On this particular caliper, this fitting, which comes already installed from factory, the one back here that comes installed from factory, was loose. So while I was bleeding this tire, I saw a leak coming out from there. So all I did was I crimped this hose again, this one, using a pair of vice grips, flat vice grips, crimped it so no fluid would come out. Took this little fitting off and cranked the factory installed fitting one time around, and now it's actually raining, so I think it's done. I'm going to test it one more time. And one thing I failed to mention to you guys: as you're bleeding the brakes, you got to keep going back to the reservoir up at the actuator in the battery compartment. I showed you a picture of that, and you need to keep filling that up so you don't run out of fluids in the lines, or at least that's the way I did it. And so I'm going to wait a couple minutes until it stops raining, and then I'm going to test this one last time, and if it doesn't leak, we're good to go.